The bad weather has passed, which means clear skies and calm conditions. Offshore, there should be debris floating, holding wahoos and mahi. Cool weather is going to lighten up the fresh water, so get ready because it's time for the Texas Insider Fishing Report.
Welcome to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. Presented by Yamaha.
You're watching the Texas Insider Fishing Report, and we have quite the show for you this week with all new reports. And Rick, we do have a special guest joining us who you actually went fishing with the other day.
You're absolutely right. We were able to go fishing. I got Matt Loescher here. Yes. And you know, Matt and I were able to go down into the Everglades and catch some tarpon as well as some cool snooks. Look at this big snook that he caught. Personal best, 35.5-incher and a 33-incher. And
that's awesome.
It was going off, wasn't it?
I might be kind of jealous. I didn't get an invite. All right, well, we're excited to have Matt Loescher joining us today, and I'm sure Dave is excited because he's getting some new blood over at the Workbench, aren't you, Dave?
Just joining with the jellies who didn't get to go.
Oh, you and I both.
Yeah, but you know, I'm going to get to go fishing with him out in Texas next month.
Nice.
We're going to be talking about some swim jigs and all that stuff here, so it'll be pretty neat.
Pretty neat. Stealing money again, Dave.
Yeah, why
not? All right, up first is our Alvy Reels Lower Coast region, and Captain Chad Kinney has the offshore and inshore skinny. All right, so Chad, tell us how our weekend is looking with the storm that just passed.
I'll tell you what, everything's looking great. We got some great conditions, which means, you know, some great fishing offshore and inshore. We got the Wahoo Classic, which is this Saturday, the 18th, out of South Padre Island. The awards are on Sunday, so if you guys are down in the far south end of my region, it's out of Jim's Pier. You'll be seeing our boat, the Bam Bam, doing the weigh-in down there, and hopefully get the awards there on Sunday. But moving into the some fishing reports, of course, we're going to start inshore. Been talking about this pretty much feels like all summer long, but it's true. They're holding there. The redfish are around those jetties still, and they're also still flowing into the flats and along those reefs there. The trout fishing's really picking up still in that 4 to 5 foot of water. Lots of times around those drop-offs, or you get some of those deeper grass beds right before it turns into the sand or the ICW. Starting out with the redfish. We've been talking about, like I said, for quite a while on jetties. Look for those washouts with your Garmin. Those washouts can be, you know, as deep as 30 feet and some of that stuff. A lot of stuff around Mansfield's 20, 25. Port Aransas is deeper out there. You want to look for those deeper washouts along those rocks. And the best thing right now is fish with some live croaker or finger mullet. Free line these, depending on the current. And if not, use a Carolina rig. You can ring it up with some Amoy 60-pound fluorocarbon. And then use a 100 Alvy reel. A little bit bigger reel than their 60 or 80 quarts, holds a little more line, a little more drag. And I've been comboing that with about a 7-foot Fenwick medium heavy to action rod. Makes it great. We get some of those bigger bull reds. You can actually pull on them and try to keep them on those rocks once in a while. Let the bait work and get down deep is a key thing. And then once you get a bite, let them take it a little bit and then set the hook on. Don't set it right away. They're going to pick that bigger bait up and work it a little bit. Give them that. And also on the hook right now, the hook size or the bait size is getting a little bit bigger. We're using a 7/0 Eagle Claw. Tail hook is what I like to use them through there. It won't hook up as bad around the rocks and stuff. You'd be good on that. There's plenty of slot redfish with some oversized. And those bigger oversized usually can be a little bit farther off the jetties with the slot fish more up towards the rocks. Moving to the trout fishing, like I said, it's really been starting to pick up a bit. Live bait's still working really good here, probably another 3-4 weeks. I think it's probably better on some soft plastics. But right now, some live croaker. And if you have any piggies available, which should start showing up here in the next couple of weeks, live piggies, the grunts work great. Free line these along the drop-offs and deeper grass beds in that 4 to 5 foot of water. If you're using the artificial lures, and I definitely like that saltwater Saxon sea shad. Favorite color still is that magic grass. Or definitely chicken on the chain. Go to that. Use an 1/8-ounce jig head and work the same edges as you would like a live bait. Work the edges of the grass and sand pockets. You can throw it out a little bit deeper, get a little bit slow retrieve. Kind of feel that with your good rod tip and keep that bait just above that grass bed. You know, kind of in and out of those sand pockets. You'll have some really good pictures there. So moving on to the trout picture, got a Charlie Buchan, pro staff for Shell Sport Boats and SCB there. He's got a picture of a nice one of his clients there that had a 22-inch, which fits our slot down here, but they released it. So moving over to offshore, state water snapper fishing's really been good. And there's some plastic action out deeper from 250 feet, actually up to the 100-fathom curve. State water snapper fishing, like I mentioned, people still a lot of times say, hey, the season's closed. No, state waters in Texas. Luckily, the thing you got is year-round, 365 days is 4 per person, and the bite's been good out here, especially with these calmer weathers going on. Take plenty of fresh bait. I like taking some different type of bait in case you get a little bit pickier. Squid, cigar minnows, bycatch off shrimp boats works great. And with these lighter currents and conditions, use that Eagle Claw Trocar big. You can get down to about a 1 to 3 ounce with it. And if you want to work that from the bottom all the way up to the middle water column, find out where the sight's at, where the bigger stuff's at. You can also free line, which this time of year is great, especially if you're on anchor. If you're on anchor, go ahead and free line using the Eagle Claw circle hook, 12 to 13 ounce circle hook. Let it free line off the back end and just kind of keep letting it go. The key thing in this is you got to let it go. Don't stop it, because those fish like to hit it when it's on a natural current move. So keep letting it out until you get a hit. Let it run about maybe 5-10 seconds. Just click it over and slowly tighten it up. That circle hook's going to do its job. It's going to go right in the side of the hook of the jaw, that snapper, and you'll be on. And you can have a lot of fun that way. Some of those big ones are up higher like that. Heading out deeper, the pelagics out deeper from that 250 to 100 fathom curve. Like Rick mentioned, after the storm we just had, I'm expecting some debris to be out there. Hopefully with this calmer weather, some of the weed lines will start the currents will tighten them up, which would be a lot more effective for some Dorado and Wahoo and stuff. There's some black tuna out there. And definitely work some structure. If you find some rips out there, work on that. There's salt and billfish action out deeper also, more towards 100 fathom curve, more like 400 to 600 foot of water. So this time of year, what I like doing, if you're going to cover some ground, put a full spread out, which I mean, run 5 to 7 lines, depending on which boat you run and what you got going on. But we'll pull those and bring our conventional stuff out. We'll use some 10 internationals, depending on what size fish you're targeting, go from a 30 wide international to about a 50 wide international. And we'll put some Islanders on pretty much everything out there with some ballyhoo rigged on them, some different sizes. Run them on the shotgun, your outriggers. You can pull them on the flats, or if you're looking for some Wahoo, maybe this time of year, drop them down on the planer, and you'll have some good luck doing that. So hopefully see you guys at the Wahoo Classic, and good luck.
All right, thank you so much, Chad. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the shallow sport boats hotspot from the Lower Coast region. He says inshore, Lower Coast jetties are still good for redfish with calmer seas. Look for the trout in 4 to 5 feet of water on the drop-offs and grass beds. And then you're going offshore. State water snapper bite is still good out deeper for the pelagics and 250 feet deep out and out to 100 fathom curve.
All right, Rick, this week in the Upper Fresh region, we have guide Mike McFarland filling in for Johnny Geis. Thanks for being here, Mike. Let's hear what's going on in your region.
Well, hello, Rick and Brie. Awesome to be here. As you know, Mr. Johnny Geis is up in Canada duck hunting and goose hunting. It's pretty neat. I think he does this every year. But listen, he left me an awesome report to give to you guys, and I'm going to do my very best to fill in for him. So I'm grateful to be here.
All right, let's go. Get started.
Yeah, let's talk about big bass on Lake Fork. It's voted the #1 bass fishery by Bassmasters Magazine once again. And so right now, and specifically, we have the Sealy Big Bass Splash, which is going on this weekend at Lake Fork Marina. There will be over 3,000 anglers on the water, all casting for hourly big bass checks, prizes totaling over $500,000. I don't think there's any big pro tournament that pays this much in one day. This is mostly, your amateur level, and it's just amazing how this event's been held for over 35 years. It's the largest tournament of the year. Anglers travel from all over the country. They're to fish the #1 bass fishery, but they're all hoping, honestly, to catch the biggest bass of this event. And the reason being is the biggest bass of this event pays a fully rigged bass boat and a full-size pickup truck, followed with $7,000 cash. I mean, what an amazing deal to win something like that. So they've got hourly anglers that are going to cash checks ranging from $250 to $2,000 with this 15 largest bass of every hour. The first angler of each day that weighs a 2.50 will win an additional $5,000. You can see why the attraction would draw people from all over the country. And again, not to be redundant, but over 3,000 anglers. It's amazing. Remember a few things about Lake Fork, and then we'll get to some techniques. But Lake Fork has a slot limit, and it's super important that you understand that means a bass between 16 and 24 inches cannot be possessed. The fish to weigh in must be less than 16 or over 24. I'd hate for someone to travel here and ruin their weekend by being DQ'd or getting a ticket. There will be game wardens on standby, and they do their job really well. So all fish weighed in will be legal. And, man, just make sure you dot your I's and cross your T's on this one when you bring fish to the scales. So top lures and techniques. Both Johnny and I guide here. And I can tell you right now, his report is so on the money, I'm happy to give it. First and foremost would be your shaky head rigged worms. You're going to range worms from 6-inch to 10-inch. and typically a 1/4 ounce to 1/2 ounce, depending on what you're fishing. It not only will catch small fish under the slot, it will catch the big fish. This is basically a weedless rigged lure. You can fish it around the docks. You can fish it in brush piles. You can fish it in heavy timber. For me, it honestly works best when slowly dragged along hard bottoms and shell bottom structures. And some of the best colors are typical colors like candy bug, red bug, green pumpkin, blue fleck. I can make you laugh for a little enough to keep you entertained. When I first moved to Texas, one of the good old Texas boys said to me that when you're fishing plastic worms, all you got to do is have a little bug in it. And he meant candy bug, red bug, June bug, but any one of those colors are really effective.
So Mike, we're running out of time. So I also see here in your report that the Carolina rig plastics are going to work real well. Same colors will work, as well as topwater lures, some small popping type of lures, and then deep running crankbaits. Tell me about this picture that you have from the Lake Fork.
So that young man, boy, it made up all of our days. You know, any of us want to see our clients catch a beauty, but that is one of the slot fish. So remember, even though that looks like a winning type fish, that fish would have been illegal to bring into a weigh. Yet for our day, it was a beautiful prize fish of a lifetime. So yes, those. If I could just close out real quick on some crappie reports. Basically, this time of year, you know, the crappie start moving. They move with the bait. Brush piles are still producing fish in 8 to 10 inch size. You really kind of got to move a lot if you want to find the big ones. Just keep following those fish into the backs of the creeks. Follow the gizzard shad, the threadfin shad. Once it gets too cool, remember those fish will move back out to the deep water for those fall and winter patterns. But remember, just move until you find the ones that will bite.
All right.
Early morning bite is terrible. Fast action starting right about 9:30. So save yourself a late breakfast and get on out there late.
Thank you so much for filling in, Mike. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the upper fresh hotspots. He says that the water temperatures are starting to fall with cooler mornings and shorter days, early morning topwaters and frogs starting to produce in the shallows for the bass, and then shaky head worms are working 10 to 20 feet, crankbaits in the afternoon, and the crappie are biting into brush piles and timber, and the best for those crappies are minnows and jigs. Brie?
Fall is definitely approaching everywhere right now. Pumpkin spice.
You're right.
It's all looking good. All right, well, coming up, we're going right over to the Workbench with Matt and Dave. What are you guys talking about over there?
We're talking about swim jigs and other kinds of jigs. Matt's going to demystify all these different jig heads for us.
Ooh.
There's a bunch, you know.
Demystify.
Football jig, swim jig.
Getting jiggy with it. We'll be back.
Hey, we're here at the Workbench, going to talk a little bit about some swim jigs, and Matt is from the Middle Fresh region. You mention swim jigs and jigs all the time in your reports. What do you like about jig fishing so much?
Well, first off, I feel like anytime I can be throwing a jig, my chances of catching a big bass go way up.
So it's a big fish bait for you.
It's a big fish bait, no doubt.
And what other things do you like about them?
They're extremely versatile. You know, you've got jigs of all different types, as you can see here, from swim jigs to football jigs, flipping, casting, little miniature jigs. And so you can always find a jig that suits your needs.
Right.
Regardless of what the pattern is, what type of cover you're fishing, you can always find a jig. And like I said, if you're fishing a jig, your chances of catching a big one are good. So I always like to go to it.
Is it a seasonal thing? Are there certain seasons when you say, okay, it's time for us to start picking up these jigs? Or?
Well, you can certainly use them year-round. However, I do tend to lean more towards a jig in the colder months, something big and bulky, and then also in the summer months. So kind of a dead of winter, dead of summer, they tend to shine, I feel like. That's just my personal preference, but you can absolutely throw a jig anytime.
And I noticed that you've got different kind of trailers on here. Are they a seasonal thing too, or is it just a personal preference, or is it you try to match the hatch? What's going on with all those?
Absolutely, matching the hatch is always a good deal. The seasons have a lot to do with it also. in the fall, you've got a little bit of a shad push into the pockets and into the, the backs of the creeks. So that's where like your swim jigs with the swim bait trailers come in handy.
Little paddle tails and whatnot.
Awesome, yeah. And then also with the fall pattern, as it gets colder, the crawfish get more active. And so that's where your crawfish trailers come into play, especially when you're flipping around stumps and rocks and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know that when we're using them a lot, we have to keep them moving because we have a lot of vegetation in our areas. When you're fishing, do you like to fish them on the bottom, or is it a different type of deal no matter what?
Well, it depends, so it depends on what lake you're on, what source of cover that you're fishing. If you're in a lake with a lot of grass, like a lot of the lakes in the Texas, so you're going to want to throw something like a swim jig where you can swim that thing right over the top of that grass, and you get that reaction bite of those fish coming out of the grass.
What did you call that thing? The 4-wheel drive jig?
Yeah, the 4-wheel drive jig.
Goes
You can
through
throw
everything.
it anywhere. You
That's
can throw
what
it
I
in the
like
bushes. You can throw it in the grass.
Yeah, it shoots right through all the lily pads and sticks and stems, and as soon as it clears, you drag it through a big pile of stuff. As soon as it gets to the other side, pow! That's when it gets nailed. That's
a lot of times,
really
you can also see them coming after it. You see the mouth coming up behind it. It's so awesome.
Right. Now, I see that you have different shape heads and stuff. I know that all the swim jigs have pretty much a pointy head or a triangular head to pierce through the cover. Right. But I see you got one over there, that football head jig. What's up with that?
Right. So the football jig I classify it as a dragging jig. Right. So it's one that you're going to want to, when you find an area, mostly an offshore deal, when you're looking
deep water,
usually deeper water, when you're looking at a clay bottom or a rocky bottom, something hard, right, or rough.
Right.
And so what that football jig does for you is when you're pulling it across that rougher bottom, it's got this 90-degree line tie here. So as it's pulled and it makes contact with a rock or a little bump in the bottom or a little stick or something like that, like on my hand here, it's going to want to stand, right? It's going to
raise the tail up.
It's going to want to flip those claws up like that. It's kind of hard to do here on my hand, but when it's in the water, it's going to do this, know. And so those claws are just steadily flickering up like a crawdad or like a little bluegill feeding on the bottom, something like that.
Right. Well, there you go. If you want to catch out, go out and catch you a great big bass, start throwing a jig. I know that I missed a giant one the day before you got here, and I even sent you I had to send him an email and say, hey man, you wouldn't believe
Poor
the
Dave.
giant that I lost in my
Big one.
backyard. Happens to me quite
stings.
often now.
Dave, it's our turn to talk now. You had your turn.
It's killing me.
It's killing him. He can't stand it.
Can't tell his fish story.
The Garden Middle Coast region is welcoming the arrival of fall with open arms. So tell us what you have to look forward to, Bink.
Every new tide of fall ushers new fresh recruits of speckled trout. And unfortunately, we had a pretty good tide in the last few days, 8 to 9 foot with Hurricane Nicholas. So we've got a lot of water in our bays right now. West Matagorda Bay has been hot for trout over shell while waiting. Good numbers of trout have been found around Palacios on that north wind, around Tres Palacios Bay and on the backside of Oyster Lake. Then in Port O'Connor, trout's been eating topwaters. We had a lot of, obviously with a hurricane in the Gulf, we've had a lot of low pressure, and it's encouraged them to hit topwaters around the cedars, city slickers, and best baits have been those Mirror She Dogs and the Berkeley Jaywalkers. The jetty's been good for trout on live shrimp. Some people have waited the backside of the jetty on calm winds. We're supposed to we're forecasted to have really calm winds throughout the rest of the week on the backside of Hurricane Nicholas. So we're looking forward to that. High tides in Rockport have put a lot of fish on the shorelines. Good bite on Corky. Spots like Super Flats and Allen's Bite have held good trout. East Matagorda Bay has been good in about 5 to 6 foot of water. Top waters have worked well while waiting on those mid-bay reefs. And we expect a little bird action to start this month. There's a lot of shrimp in the bay. Redfish, man, when we get a tide like this, especially a hurricane tide like we had, it's a boon for redfish. It will put them absolutely everywhere. And West Matagorda Bay is a great spot on the south shoreline on Bassett while casting to the points of shell. Bull redfish have been great along the beachfront from Surfside to Port O'Connor. And then all the jetties are players. The Surfside, Freeport, Matagorda jetties
are all holding redfish on cracked blue crabs, mullet, and fresh table shrimp. Port O'Connor jetties is full of big reds, and also in front of Bird Island, they're soaking menhadens and large table shrimp. As always, this time of year, there's dozens and dozens of redfish along the grass lines. It's a telltale sign of fall. Spots like Shell Island, Twin Island, Cutoff Flats, different Bayou, and Matagorda are good spots. Then Mud Lake and Crab Lake, right off the intercoastal, are good as well. When the wind blows stiff, you can still get off those points and sloughs, especially with these high tides, and make a day out of it. And never discount spots like the Port Aransas jetty. High tides there, along with the nearby flats there, East Flats and Pelican Island, have been good. The photo there, that's Mike Luzak of Houston. He caught and released a big old bull red from the Matagorda jetty. And with all these high tides, it's pushed a lot of Gulf trout into East Matagorda Bay. Spots like Boiler Bayou, Don's Pipeline, and Alice are holding really good numbers of Gulf trout. Best baits are live shrimp under a popping cork. Good numbers can be found along the beachfront on fresh dead shrimp or plum plastics. Offshore, with the Gulf churning, it's been tough to go after those tarpon. But man, the next few days with calm winds, it ought to be pretty good. Anglers drifting menhaden and large shrimp, finger mullet, and dive. They're finding 5 to 10 fish, good fish a day. Large schools, they've been rolling around a Port O'Connor jetty in about 60 to 70 foot of water. Most are spotting. Most captains are spotting rolling fish and then casting to them or trolling ahead of them, offering the bait in front of them. Guys throwing the jigs, they've been rigging them on circle hooks and mimicking what we call the coon pops. A cold front is forecasted this week. More cold. We've got a lot of north wind coming, and it's gonna put the Gulf down at less than 2 foot in a great time to spot those tarpon. Expect more tarpon as we get into October as well. So that's all I've got this week from the Garmin Middle Coast region. We're going to clean up all the debris. And we're going to look on the positive side. We've got good tides. We're going to catch a whole lot of redfish in the coming weeks.
Good report. Thank you so much, Bink. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the mirror lure hotspots from the Middle Coast region. The trout are good in Allen's Bite on mirror lure softines and Bass Assassin, and the redfish are good in Oyster Lake on live shrimp. Brie?
I still can't believe fall is here already. And speaking of fall already,
yes,
we will be choosing the winner for this beautiful 1952 Chevy 3100 Hot Rod next week. So make sure you purchase your raffle tickets at ccaflorida.org/hot rod for your chance to win.
Just a few more days of ticket sales, guys.
That's crazy.
Come on, you'll be on the top of the pile. Buy a bunch.
Exactly, that's how it works. All right, next up, it's our StarTron Middle Fresh Region Captain's time to shine. And we're also seeing how the bite is down in the Lower Fresh Region. So stay hooked, and we'll be right back. Pretty work, Rick.
Thank you.
All right, Toledo Bend, Sam Rayburn, and Richland Chambers are the stars of the StarTron Middle Fresh region this week. So Matt, why don't you tell us all about the changes coming our way?
All right, Brie, I sure will. So the changing of the seasons is here in a big way, and the weather is definitely showing that. Throughout the next few weeks, there will be a lot of changes in fish patterns. I mentioned last week how the bite has started to pick up, and folks all across the Middle Fresh region have begun to see more feeding activity, especially in the largemouth bass. So we're seeing even more of that this week. The water temperatures are coming down, and the fish are really taking notice. So I'm going to start with the bass at Toledo Bend again this week. The water has come down a little bit more. It's around 168.2 now, so we're almost down to that bottom end of where they stopped generating. The rate of fall has slowed a little bit, but they are still generating some, and with no rainfall, it continues to come on down. So the water temperature has dipped now all the way into the low 80s, which is a pretty big shock to the system. That's about an 8-degree drop from where we were. And so that's thanks to some really nice upper 50-degree air temps, which made it a really nice week to be on the lake. On the upper end of the lake, some of the fish have begun moving shallower, and on the lower end, you'll still find more fish sitting out deep. The crankbait bite is good, and that should keep getting better. You can use it to cover water and catch those fish that are feeding more aggressively now. The active depth range is a very broad range, but patterning the fish mostly consists of fishing the channel swings and the wood on those. So just look to that. Up at Richland Chambers, Mr. Thurman Selman of Bass Specialty Guide Service says that the early morning and late evening Shallow water bite is still improving, and the frogs and the fat job worms are the ticket there. You'll still want to stay offshore for a bigger bite though, on the man-made structures and on other types of hard spots. For that jig pattern, he's using the jigs with the skunk ape as a trailer, and then the big worms are best out there offshore. And then he's catching a few fish around docks that are near deep water with a shaky head using a tap out worm as well. Now before I move on to crappie, I want to take a quick minute to remind everyone about the Sea League Big Bass Splash events that are coming up. We already talked some about the Lake Fork event, and then at Sam Rayburn they're hosting a fall shootout October 9th and 10th. These are great events where you can win big money on hourly payouts and overall payouts. So Mr. Johnny Geis and I will be keeping you posted on what the fish are doing. You'll know what to look for when you get there. Now, finishing out real quick with crappie at Toledo Bend, they're still biting steady, but we're seeing little sparks of an even better bite coming. So those fall trips, you gotta get them booked now. It's gonna get really good soon. The fish are still in their summertime haunts like deep timber and bridge pilings, about 15 to 30 foot deep. There has definitely been a better jig bite lately on the panfish assassin tiny shads. Live minnow bite is decent, but the fish are still a little skittish when you get on top of them, so casting those jigs in there has been working better for me. At Sam Rayburn, the crappie bite continues to be good on that 147 bridge and around the offshore timber. Look to the timber in about 15 to 30 foot along the sharp drop-offs and cast a jig to it or drop a live minnow down to it, as I mentioned before. And I'm gonna leave you with a photo of Mr. Judd Trahan with a big white crappie he caught with me while fishing on his bachelor party this past weekend.
All right, so Matt, I got a couple questions for you. You know, you mentioned the Toledo Bend, Sam Rayburn, big bass splash.
Oh yeah.
You're going to be there, and then we're sending a team out there to help with you guys so we can help promote the show. So Dave's coming, and I don't believe Dave's ever fished Toledo Bend or Sam Rayburn, so what do you think you're going to have for him? I know he's going to fish a couple days with you.
I think he's going to be in for a treat. He's going to catch us at the right time. You know, he's getting in there when that fall bite's really going to be coming on strong, and I'm expecting big things.
Well, what are we going to do if a cold front comes like when you and I were able to fish? What are you going to do? What's plan B?
Well, I guess we're going to have to suit up.
I think you got to introduce him to Pearl and teach him about what a goo is, and maybe he can catch a grand slam with a turtle in there as well.
Dave is smiling ear to ear over there at the Workbench.
With a turtle, huh?
Got to include the turtle.
Yeah.
I bet Dave doesn't even know what a goo is.
A what?
A goo.
Okay, I don't.
It's a true thing.
I don't know.
All right, so I'll tell you what a goo is. I learned it from my man. Why don't you tell him what a goo is?
Well, I don't know. I might need to leave him hanging. I might just have to show him.
It's a freshwater drum, Dave.
Oh, okay.
All right, they call them goos. You know, Texas, the Panhandle of Florida, whatever. Everybody got a nickname for something.
That's true.
This is great. I thought Dave knew everything.
Yeah.
You don't.
Nope. Nope.
You don't know what a goo is. Well, thank you for being here, Matt. It's awesome having you in the studio.
Awesome.
But we got to get to your hot spots. So
yes, we do.
All this fun's got to end. All right, man, let's take a look at the hot spots. He says largemouth bass are feeding more and more in the shallow waters, but the bigger fish remain offshore. The crappie are still biting well in Toledo Bend and Sam Rayburn on the offshore structure.
All right, let's jump down into the lower fresh region with Matt Reed and see how Lake Falcon, Fayette County, Somerville, LBJ, Marble Falls, Inks, Choke Canyon, and Amistad are fishing. Talk to us, Matt.
Hi, Brie. Good to have you back.
Thank you.
Let's get this thing rolling. Falcon Lake, it just keeps pumping out the big ones. The pattern hadn't changed much recently. You know, we're still stuck in summertime down this far south, so that'll last for a little while longer. Concentrate on the main lake rock structure and the man-made brush piles. Throw crankbaits, Texas rig, and stand-up heads on the rock targets. And in the brush piles, you'll need to throw a Texas rig worm so you don't get hung all that much. Plum and blue fleck are the best colors. Greg Boyd sent me a report from Fayette County. It's fishing really well with these cooler mornings and shorter days. The chrome lipless crankbait and shad color swim jigs around the shoreline reeds and vegetation first thing has been the go-to in the morning. Later, the deeper schools and 14 to 18 foot, they're still there. They're thinning out a little bit because they're moving shallower to feed more during the day. But they're still biting a drop shot and a shaky head, baited with green pumpkin candy, straight tail worm. A little bit of sporadic schooling activity down toward the dam also, so keep your eye open. Somerville, the bass are biting better. Saltwater poppers and small square bills around the rocky shores like the dam and anywhere else you can find it are a good bet early. Texas rigs, Carolina rigs, and brush jigs are the deal later in the day when the sun gets up on the brush piles. Green pumpkin, black and blue, and June bug have been the best colors. One of the things you need to look out for at Summerville when you see schools of white bass, if you can drop a big flutter spoon and get it past them, been a lot of really good bass caught around the white bass. Brian Cotter sent me reports from the Austin area. Lake LBJ is starting to turn on with fall coming. Top water, walking baits and frogs have really been getting better around the bulkheads and anywhere you can see some lily pads. Also throw a watermelon-colored fluke in the same areas. Later, you want to concentrate on docks, skipping a wacky rig stick worm under there or a jig. That's the best place to catch a big one. Lake Marble Falls is doing well on frogs up the river early around laydowns and retaining walls and the docks also. When the sun starts to get up, you want to really concentrate on the docks, throw a crankbait down the edges and skip a jig under them. Later, you want to move out and throw you a football jig out in 15 to 20 foot of water on the ledges. That's the best way to get you a big bite. Inks Lake starting to produce really well. You want to go way up the river in the skinny water and throw a frog early. Work around rocks and lily pads for those big bites. Go on up all the way to the end of the lake to below the dam above it and concentrate on the docks in that area. You want to throw a fluke or a weightless stick worm under those docks. That's a great place right now to catch them. They're even schooling a little bit in that area. Later, move back to the main lake. Skip a jig under the docks. That's what's working best after the sun gets high. But keep your eye open for brush piles down in front of those docks because that's a great place to finish up with a big fish. I got a couple of pictures there. These fish for a couple of my customers this week with a couple of Falcon specials. I'll never get tired of people catching those giants.
Except
well,
when
I
Rick's
tell you
there.
what, I'm getting tired of seeing these damn pictures, Buff. I'm coming back, though. I'm coming back in November. I'm coming back. All right.
Nobody go fishing that weekend when Rick's there.
Yeah, I want the whole lake to myself.
The catfish. Choke Canyon. The catfish are biting well on dough bait and shad at the outside edge of the hydrilla. Lots of keeper-sized channel cat and blue cats are being caught that way. Lake Amistad, that gin clear water down there gives up some awesome tasting catfish. The best areas right now, you're baiting with sour grain to concentrate them. Use stink bait or cut bait to fill out your limit with great eating size channels and blues. And that'll do me for this week.
All right, I do have a question for you before I take a look at the hot spots. But, Bud, I got a deer lease in Rio Grande City, or just a little north of there, which is only about an hour and a half from you. So I'm going to call you after the show, and I want to book some days when I'm going to be there by myself in November for 2 weeks. So I want to come over and see if I can redeem myself.
We need to get you down there and get you a real one. They caught you a nice one last time you were here, but we'll get you a real one this time.
All right, well, this is how I look when I'm ready. Short, bald, and very excited in the eyeballs. All right, man, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the FiberTech hotspots from the lower fresh region. He says that the Fayette County bass are getting more active in the shallow areas with the cooling temperatures. The lipless crankbaits and shad-colored swim jigs are the ticket early around the grass lines and the reeds. And then you might later want to move to the main lake drop-offs in 14 to 18 feet with a Carolina rig or a shaky head to continue with the fun, Brie.
2 weeks, huh? You're going to go redeem yourself?
Oh, I'm going to be there for 30 days, but not all at one time.
Gotcha. Well, you better do an aura cleanse or something before you hit the lake again with Matt Reed.
If you want to go deer hunting, you better start working on building up a supply for little Leo.
Okay. All right, on that now.
I mean, I remember doing this before with Mia, so might as well. Come on.
Yep. I'll get there eventually. All right, next up, we're taking the screw to the Fish Bites Upper Coast region. But first, Dave is featuring some glorious new products at the Workbench. I think it's time to call you short again. Go for it, Dave.
Yeah, they're glorious.
They're glorious.
Look at that monkey. I gotta love the monkey.
Fishing.
Yeah, fish monkey gloves.
Nice. We'll be back.
be more patient and don't be in a hurry over here at the workbench, Dave.
I'll try.
All right,
try.
let's get started.
We're going to start with the stiffy push-pull brackets and the bungees there. If you're a fellow with a flat skiff and you're needing to pull it around, you got to have a place to secure your push-pull when you're going from place to place and going down the road. And that's what these are for. You know, Stiffy supplies these nylon clips here. They come in sets of 3 with the stainless steel, really robust screws there.
Right.
And you install this correctly and you don't ever have to worry about your pole falling off.
So let's talk about installing.
Yeah.
Guys, when you go to put these on, make sure that you understand that on the front one, you do need to install the bungee. Your pole's going to simply it'll hold the front end, so when it's going down the road, it doesn't bounce out.
Right.
I also recommend that the back pole holder, you also
put a bungee
on that, because sometimes when you hit a wave from another boat wake, it'll be dragging in the water, the wave hits it, and then it'll slap it out. Mm. You don't necessarily have to have that bungee attached all of the time, but for sure when you're trailering, or when you're running and like in a tournament or something, going fast, make sure you have the bungee, because you don't want to have to turn around and go back and get your pole.
Right, and always put the big foot at the front.
Where do we find those? Exactly, great tip.
StiffyPushPoles.com.
All right, now we got a little bit of glove.
Yep, these are the Fish Monkey gloves. That actually one is the half guide glove there, and it's got a really nice long cuff on it. It's got the synthetic leather palms, really quick dry material, an SPF or UPF 50. That's a medium size right there that you got.
That's perfect.
Yeah, it's perfect for you.
Because I don't have any fingers. I just have little nubs.
Right, it's got the secure skin fit, and the synthetic leather again. Really a nice glove. And these are the brand new gloves right here, are the Pro 365 guide gloves. It just, it adds a little bit more protection. It's taken a lot of the good components of their best-selling gloves and actually just added some more features to it. Makes it more exposed tips, 50 plus UPF. It's got grip on the fingers and the palm. Synthetic leather, quick dry, again, extended cuff, and comes right now. They got new colors, blue water camo, and that's the tarpon.
This is the picture of Brie when she was having Leo.
Is that what that was? Well, I'll let you deal with those things.
Yeah, I'm sure she's got something
I try
for
to
me
stay
after
out
we
of
get
those.
a commercial break.
She's gonna whip your. Startron enzyme fuel treatment, essential for all small gas engines. It keeps generators running, especially nowadays during the storms and whatnot. All engines, all fuels, stabilizes fuel for 2 years. Allows for a complete fuel burn, so less emissions and keeps everything running smoothly. That little 16-ounce bottle will do 96 gallons. That's an 8-ounce bottle. It'll do 48 gallons. So, it's good for boats, cars, trucks, motorcycles, anything that uses gas, especially generators right now, and chainsaws. You can even put it in premix, which a lot of people don't realize.
That's
right. You can put it in premix as well.
Startron.com.
Startron.com. Last and not least, we got a brand new color from Bass Assassin.
Sexy.
It's very nice. It's called the Laguna Shrimp. It's a little pink with a little flake on the bottom there.
Wow.
Very, very nice.
That is.
It's gonna look like a shrimp in the water, I'm sure. That's the sea shad 4-inch and the saltwater shad 5-inch. They come in a ton of different colors. You go on there to see how many colors they got. It's like 20 different colors for each one. But this is the brand new, the Laguna Shrimp. Where would you use that?
So I'd like to rig this weedless or with a real small jig head, 1/8 or even a 1/16th, and sight fish, the redfish, the snook. You could throw it for trout.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I like rigging this under a popping cork with a 1/4-ounce jig head and pop it, and they think it's a shrimp.
It looks like a shrimp.
Can even tip it with a little
Looks
tiny
like a boiled
piece
shrimp
of fish bites. BassAssassin.com.
Exactly.
Or Saltwater Assassin.
Saltwater Assassin, Bass Assassin.
All right. Well, Brie, where are we going next?
Rick,
Yes?
you're in for it, man.
Oh.
You're in for it. The Fish Bites Upper Coast region is closing us out with some trout, redfish, kingfish, and tuna talks with Captain Carl Weston. So, Carl, give us a swift kick into the weekend. Go for it.
All right. Well, we're still here. We didn't get blown away yet. We're going to jump off into redfish. Starting over at St. Louis Pass, it's not a broken record. It's still the hot spot. over to the beaches, wading, surf fishing is going to be one of your best bets. East and West Galveston Bay has improved a lot with the influx of some nice fresh salt water. Not to make it sound stupid, but good salt water. The salinity improvement has changed a lot around the shorelines. The bait is pushing, moving around the oyster reefs a lot more. That's going to be your area you want to target in the bays. Throwing a mix of live shrimp or finger mullet right now on a popping cork. That's our preferred live bait for the week. If you want to throw artificials, I would recommend a 4-inch gulp or a fish bite in a light color. Rig this with about a 1/4 ounce jig head. I like to add about a 3-foot piece of diamond alloy fluorocarbon just in case they're a little picky. Today we've got a picture of Mario with his daughter and her first redfish.
Nice.
So moving on to trout over in Sabine Lake, it's been getting better and better. The temps are up about 86 degrees. Just like Galveston, the better water conditions have made an impact on the activity of the inshore fish bait. The shell reefs, the mud flats in the 4 to 6 foot range, Rick, have been really good this last week. Fish are holding around Suits Island along the jetties on the outgoing tides over there east. And I'd stick to a little heavier jig head this time of year, bounce that bait off the bottom a little bit. The cooler water is going to hold your bigger fish. So I'd say a 1/2-inch jig head rigged with fish bites. That Fight Club shrimp, 3 inches, amazing. The 3-inch shad from Berkeley Gulf is working really well. Live bait on a popping cork is always the way to go over there. But we got a picture of Mario with a nice trout today.
Nice.
And we'll bounce offshore, guys. Kingfish. Finally, trolling around the close inshore rigs has improved this week. We've had a tough time with kingfish this year. Hit and miss. They finally seem to turn on a little bit with, once again, better water. There's tons of baits on the beach out to, say, 100-foot depth. It's pretty easy to fill your live well right now. And the bite seems to be early in the morning. The smaller fish from, say, 8 to 20 pounds have been patrolling outside these bait schools. If you're going out to catch some kings, this is a size to catch, eat, and cook. They're the best. This week we were trolling. Our trolling technique, we had a little mixed bag of live baits and some small deep divers. Running a simple 2-hook setup for live bait, pair of eagle claw treble hooks, haywire twisted about 5 inches apart, and then a barrel swivel to the line. On that haywire rig, get you a nice live bait fish. Hook him right in the nose with that first hook. Second hook behind the dorsal. Toss him in the water, drag him as slow as you can around the structure. This kind of fishing is really fun. We had some really cool breaches this week with some of the smaller fish being active. And we had a picture today of Kaylee on her first fishing trip and her first kingfish.
Nice.
Cool.
Good job taking the kids, Carl. Tell us about the tuna.
So blackfin tuna, once again, has been a struggle this year, and I think it's been the salinity. They're finally showing up behind the deep water shrimp boats and the current breaks. Last week we were trolling for Dorado, and I caught a few mid-sized blackfin, some bonita, and we've been trolling mostly these smaller topwater mahi baits. I've been working on these tuna. As far as behind the shrimp boat is concerned, chunking, as we will always do, is our preferred method there. Cut up some shad or cigar minnows into small chunks, pull up to the stern of that anchored shrimp boat, throw a few chunks in the water, drift your baits back in. Look at that Garmin. You'll see these fish suspended about halfway down, and it won't take long. If they're there, you'll get hooked up. And we've got a picture today of Mr. Reyes with a nice little blackfin we caught.
So, Carl,
That'll do.
what do you think you're going to be doing this weekend?
Cleaning up tree limbs, fixing the boat.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the R&R tackle hotspots from the Upper Coast region. Carl says inshore trout on the mud flats and the shell reefs in 4 to 6 feet of water throwing Fight Club shrimp and on a 1/2-ounce jig head. And then offshore, we're going to do blackfin tunas deep behind the deep water shrimp boats in 200-foot depths. So, Dave, you're sponsored by AFCO here at the Workbench, and tell us what they just did for all the people in Louisiana.
They had the big Louisiana Guide Relief Day last Wednesday on 9/8, and AFCO and Marshwear Clothing donated 100% of their profits for that whole day, and they raised $41,624
wow.
for the guides. That'll help them out a little bit, hopefully make up for some of the lost days. It's not going to get that sawdust out of their ears because I know they're going to be doing a lot of sawing.
Yes.
I know. When
Well,
the hurricanes
our
come,
prayers
it's bad.
are certainly with the people of Louisiana
And Texas
and Texas, of course.
Mississippi.
But that baby, I kid you all the time about the baby. We love that baby. Where's that picture?
Oh, you mean the deer one? You mean this one?
Look at this.
Rick said he
look
wanted
at
to
this.
show it. I had to do it.
Look at that baby. Are you
Deer.
kidding me?
I know. I got him back
He's
today. I
pretty
couldn't
darn
help
cute,
myself.
That's why we tease
I
you so
know.
much, because he's so
We'll see you
cute.
guys next week.
Bye,
Thanks
guys.
for tuning in. Be safe.